The ships came on a Tuesday morning. 3,000 of them. They appeared in the sky above Earth like a dark cloud that blocked the sun. People stopped in the streets and looked up. Children pointed at the massive shadows. The whole world held its breath. Admiral Una Park was eating breakfast when the call came. She put down her coffee and answered her phone. The voice on the other end was shaking. Within 20 minutes, she was standing in the United Earth Defense Command Center in Seoul. The room was filled with officers, all staring at the giant holographic display in the center. The alien ships were huge. Each one was bigger than any building on Earth. They floated in perfect formation, silent and still. Una studied them carefully. She had spent her whole life preparing for war, but never like this. Never against something from the stars. "We are receiving a transmission," one of her officers said. His name was Minho Kong, a young lieutenant with sharp eyes. "They want to talk." "Put it through," Una said. The holographic display changed. A face appeared. It was not human. The creature had pale blue skin and 6 eyes arranged in 2 rows on its face. Its mouth was wide and filled with small teeth. It wore what looked like ceremonial robes covered in gold symbols. "I am Ambassador Varel of the Galactic Council," the creature said. Its voice was deep and cold. "We have watched your species for many years. You are young. You are weak. You have nothing we want except your planet and your labor." Una said nothing. She just listened. "The Galactic Council has ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years, Rel continued. "We have absorbed over 400 civilizations into our empire. Some came peacefully. Others had to be taught their place. You will now make your choice." The transmission showed images of other worlds. Beautiful planets turned into mining colonies. Entire species working in chains. Cities burning. Varel showed humanity what happened to those who refused the council. "You have 72 hours to surrender," Varel said. "You will give up all weapons. You will give up your governments. Your people will serve the council as workers. Your planet will become a resource extraction site. This is not a request. This is your only option." The transmission ended. The room was silent. Una looked around at her officers. Some were pale with fear. Others looked angry. A few seemed ready to give up already. She understood their feelings. The ships above them were beyond anything Earth had ever built. The aliens had technology that seemed like magic, but Una Park had grown up in a world that faced problems every day. Climate disasters, wars, diseases. Humanity had survived all of it. They had clawed their way up from caves to skyscrapers. They had split the atom and walked on the moon. They were not a species that surrendered easily. She laughed. The sound surprised everyone in the room. Lieutenant Minho turned to look at her with wide eyes. "Admiral, get me the World Council," Una said calmly. "Every leader, every general, every scientist. I want them all on a call within the hour." "What are you going to tell them?" Minho asked. Una smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who had just been given a challenge and was ready to meet it. "I am going to tell them that we have work to do." The next few hours were chaos. World leaders argued. Some wanted to surrender immediately. They pointed at the ships in the sky and asked what choice they had. The aliens had thousands of vessels. Earth had a few hundred. The math was simple, but others refused to give up. General Taiho Shin, the commander of the Asian Defense Forces, slammed his fist on the table during the emergency meeting. "Our ancestors did not survive ice ages and plagues, so we could become slaves to blue-skinned monsters," he shouted. "If we die fighting." The debate went on for hours. Finally, Una Park stood up. The room went quiet. "I've spent my life studying war," she said. "I have read about every battle in human history. Do you know what I learned? The bigger army does not always win. The army with better weapons does not always win. What wins is the army that refuses to accept defeat." She pointed at the holographic display showing the alien fleet. "They expect us to be afraid. They expect us to bow down and beg for mercy. That is how every other species reacted. That is all they know." Una paused. "But we are not like other species. We are humans. We do not beg. We do not bow. When someone threatens us, we do not run away. We run toward them. The vote was taken. It was not unanimous, but it was enough. Earth would not surrender. Lieutenant Minho was given the honor of sending humanity's response. He recorded a simple video message. He was smiling politely, as if he was talking to a difficult customer instead of an alien invasion fleet. "The people of Earth have considered your offer," Minho said. "We respectfully decline. However, we would like to invite your ambassador to visit our surface. We have many questions about your technology and your history. We hope we can learn from each other." He paused, and his smile grew wider. "Also, we noticed your ships are quite old. The design looks like it has not changed in a very long time. Is that intentional, or did you just stop trying to improve?" The message was sent in the Defense Command Center. Yuna turned to her team. "Now the real work begins. I want every scientist on this planet studying those ships. I want to know what they are made of. I want to know how they fly. I want to know their weaknesses." "What if they do not have weaknesses?" someone asked. Yuna shook her head. "Everything has a weakness. We just have to find it. We have 72 hours. That is plenty of time." Outside, the alien ships waited in the sky like patient predators. They had conquered hundreds of worlds. They had never been refused before. They did not know what was coming. Humanity was about to teach them. High Counselor Thane stood on the bridge of his flagship and stared at the view screen. He had watched humanity's response 3 times now. He still could not believe what he was seeing. The human male was smiling. He was polite. He spoke as if he was refusing an invitation to dinner, not rejecting the most powerful force in the galaxy. And then he had insulted their ships. Their ships. The same vessels that had crushed 400 civilizations. "Play it again," Thane ordered. His second-in-command, a female named Senna, hesitated. "High Counselor, we have already watched it multiple times. Perhaps we should focus on planning our attack. Play it again." The message played once more. The human named Minho Kong smiled at the camera. His words were respectful, but there was something in his eyes. Something that looked almost like amusement, as if he found the whole situation funny. Thane had led the Council's conquest fleet for 200 years. He had watched countless species receive the ultimatum. Some cried, some begged, some tried to run. A few fought. But their resistance lasted only hours before their primitive weapons proved useless against Council technology. No one had ever laughed at them. "What do we know about these creatures?" Thane asked. Senna pulled up the data on her console. Species designation: human. Origin: third planet of a yellow star system on the outer edge of the galaxy. They have had space travel for approximately 250 years. Their technology is primitive compared to ours. They still use chemical rockets for some transportation. Their weapons are based on kinetic projectiles and nuclear fission. Kinetic projectiles? Thane repeated the words with disgust. They throw metal at their enemies. Yes, High Counselor. They also use explosive devices and directed energy weapons. But their primary military technology involves accelerating physical objects at high speeds. Thane made a sound of contempt. Barbarians. They are barely out of their caves. Their weapons are toys compared to our plasma cannons. That is correct, Senna agreed. Our shields are designed to absorb and disperse energy attacks. Their kinetic weapons would be ineffective against our fleet. Then why are they refusing? Thane demanded. Do they not understand what we can do to them? Senna had no answer. Thane decided to make things clear. He ordered a demonstration. One of his ships targeted an empty island in the ocean below. A single blast from the plasma cannon vaporized the island completely. The explosion was visible from space. Satellites across the planet recorded the destruction. The Council expected fear. They expected panic. They expected the humans to come running back, begging for forgiveness. Instead, they received another message. This time, it was from Admiral Yuna Park herself. "Thank you for the demonstration," she said. Her voice was calm, almost bored. Our scientists found it very informative. We noticed that your plasma weapons generate extreme heat, but relatively little kinetic force. We also measured the recharge time of your cannon. 17 seconds between shots. That is slower than we expected. She tilted her head slightly. If you have any other weapons you would like to show us, please feel free. We are taking notes. Thane felt something he had not experienced in a very long time. He felt uncertain. These creatures are insane, Sina whispered. They must be, or they know something we do not. Thane replied quietly. He ordered his intelligence officers to gather more information about humanity. What they found confused him even more. The humans had a history of constant warfare. They fought each other over land, over resources, over ideas, over religions. Their planet was covered in monuments to fallen soldiers. Their stories celebrated warriors and battles. Their entertainment was filled with violence and conflict, but they were not mindless savages. They had also created beautiful art. They had written philosophy and poetry. They had developed medicine and technology at an incredible speed. In just a few centuries, they had gone from riding animals to flying through space. They adapt, Thane said slowly, reading through the reports. Every problem they face, they find a solution. Every enemy they meet, they learn how to defeat. But they have never faced an enemy like us, Sina pointed out. No, Thane agreed. And we have never faced an enemy like them. He looked at the view screen showing the blue and green planet below. Such a small world. Such a young species. By all logic, they should be terrified. They should be preparing to surrender. Instead, his sensors showed that they were mobilizing. Factories across the planet were increasing production. Military bases were activating. Satellites were being repositioned. The humans were preparing for war. A message arrived from the Galactic Council headquarters, far away in the core of the galaxy. The other High Counselors were watching the situation with interest. They sent their congratulations to Thane on another successful conquest. They expected the humans to surrender soon, just like all the others. Thane did not share their confidence. Send a final warning, he ordered Senna. Tell them that if they do not surrender within the remaining time, we will begin our attack. Tell them their cities will burn. Tell them their children will be taken as slaves. Tell them everything they have built will be destroyed. The warning was sent. The humans received it. Their response came quickly. It was not from the admiral or the lieutenant. It was from ordinary humans. Millions of them. They sent videos from every corner of the planet. Men and women, young and old, all with the same message. Come and try. Some were holding weapons. Some were holding tools. Some were just holding their fists in the air. They were not afraid. They were angry. They were ready. Thane watched the flood of messages with growing unease. He had conquered worlds where the population numbered in the billions. He had broken species that seemed much stronger than these soft, fragile humans. But something was different here. Something in their eyes. A fire that he had never seen before. High Counselor, Senna said softly. The countdown is almost over. What are your orders? Thane straightened his robes and pushed away his doubts. He was a High Counselor of the Galactic Council. He had never lost a battle. He would not lose this one. When the time expires, he said, we attack. We will show these humans what happens to species that refuse our mercy. He did not know that somewhere on Earth, a scientist named Hannah Cho had just made a discovery that would change everything. Dr. Hannah Cho had not slept in 36 hours. Her eyes were red and her hands were shaking from too much coffee. But she could not stop working. Not now. Not when she was so close to understanding. The alien probe sat on the examination table in front of her. It had been damaged during entry into Earth's atmosphere and had crashed in the Pacific Ocean. Recovery teams had found it within hours. Now it was in her laboratory at the Global Defense Science Division in BUSAN. Hannah had spent her entire career studying advanced physics and materials. She had helped design Earth's first fusion reactors. She had developed new alloys for spacecraft hulls. She was considered one of the smartest people on the planet, but the alien technology in front of her was beyond anything she had imagined. The power source is incredible, she said to her assistant. A young man named Dongwu Li. It generates energy through quantum field manipulation. We do not have anything like this. Dongwu nodded nervously. He kept looking at the ceiling as if expecting the alien ships to crash through at any moment. So their technology is better than ours? We cannot win. Hannah did not answer immediately. She was studying the probe's outer casing. She had expected it to be made of some exotic material, something humanity had never encountered. Instead, she found something surprising. This alloy, she said slowly. I recognize it. You do. It is similar to what we use in our spacecraft. More refined, yes. Better constructed. But the basic composition is almost identical. Anna frowned. That should not be possible. They are supposed to be millions of years more advanced than us. She ran more tests. She analyzed the power systems, the navigation equipment, the communication arrays. What she found shocked her. The technology was advanced, but it was old. Very old. The design patterns showed no sign of recent improvement. The systems used methods that were efficient but outdated. It was like finding a car from 100 years ago that still ran perfectly but had never been upgraded. Dongwu, Hannah said quietly. I need you to contact Admiral Park. Tell her I have found something important. 1 hour later, Hannah was presenting her findings to a room full of military leaders and scientists. Admiral Una Park sat in the front row, her face unreadable. General Taiho Shin stood against the wall with his arms crossed. Every important person in Earth's defense network was watching. The alien technology is advanced, Hannah began. But it is not evolving. Based on my analysis, their core systems have not changed in approximately 8,000 years. Murmurs spread through the room. General Taiho stepped forward. 8,000 years. Are you certain? Yes, General. The design patterns, the material compositions, the energy signatures. All of them show signs of extreme age with no modification. Hannah brought up images on the display screen. They achieved interstellar travel long before humans existed. But then they stopped. Stopped what? Admiral Una asked. Stopped improving? Stopped innovating. Stopped trying to make things better. Hannah took a deep breath. I have a theory. When you are the most powerful force in the galaxy, when no one can challenge you, there is no need to improve. They conquered every species they met. They never had to adapt. They never had to grow. The room was silent as everyone processed this information. So they're strong. Because no one ever fought back, Una said slowly. Exactly. Hannah nodded. They rely on intimidation. Their ships look impressive. Their weapons seem unstoppable. Every other species took one look at them and gave up. So the Council never had to develop better technology. Why would they? What they had already worked. General Taiho looked skeptical. That is interesting, Doctor. But they still have 3,000 ships in orbit. Even if their technology is old, it is still more advanced than ours, is it? Hannah smiled for the first time in days. She brought up a new image on the screen. Let me show you their shields. The display showed the energy patterns of the alien defense systems. Their shields are designed to absorb and disperse energy attacks. Plasma weapons, particle beams, laser cannons. These are the standard weapons used by every civilization in the galaxy. The shields are perfect protection against them. She paused. But humanity does not use those weapons. We use kinetic weapons, bullets, missiles, railguns. We throw metal at our enemies, because we never developed plasma technology, Dongwu added from the corner. Correct. We are too primitive for plasma cannons. Hannah's smile grew wider, and that is exactly why we can win. She brought up simulation data. I tested their shield frequencies against kinetic impacts. The shields are not designed to stop physical objects. They have no defense against a bullet or a missile. A tungsten rod traveling at high speed would pass right through their shields and hit the hole directly. General Taiho stared at the data. You are saying their shields are useless against our weapons? Worse than useless. They do not even have armor plating. Why would they? No species has ever attacked them with kinetic weapons. The idea of throwing metal at an enemy is so primitive that they never considered it. Hannah laughed. They have shields that can stop a beam of plasma hot enough to melt steel. But a single bullet would punch a hole in their ship. Admiral Eunice stood up. Her eyes were bright with understanding. They prepared for the weapons of advanced civilizations. They never prepared for the weapons of a primitive one. Exactly, Admiral. Their greatest strength is also their greatest weakness. They stopped evolving because they thought they did not need to. But evolution is what humans do best. The room erupted in discussion. Military officers began planning. Scientists started calculating. For the first time since the alien ships appeared, there was hope. Admiral Una walked to where Hannah was standing. She placed a hand on the scientist's shoulder. "How long do we have to prepare?" Hannah checked her watch. "About 30 hours. Then we have work to do." Una turned to face the room. "Contact every weapons facility on the planet. I want every railgun, every missile, every kinetic weapon we have ready to fire. If these aliens want a primitive war, we will give them one they will never forget." As the meeting ended and people rushed to their stations, Hannah looked out the window at the dark shapes hovering in the sky. The aliens thought they were dealing with another weak species, another easy conquest. They had no idea what humanity was capable of. The countdown reached 0 at exactly midnight, Seoul time. High Counselor Thane gave the order to attack. 3,000 alien ships moved forward in perfect formation. They had used the same attack pattern for 9,000 years. It had never failed. Admiral Una Park watched them come. She was standing on the bridge of the carrier Defiance, the flagship of the United Earth Fleet. Around her, 800 human ships waited in Earth's orbit. They were smaller than the alien vessels. They looked like toys compared to the massive Council warships. "They are entering weapons range," reported Commander Woojin Beek. He was a calm man with steady hands. The kind of officer who did not panic under pressure. 30 seconds to contact. Hold position, Una ordered. "Let them come to us." On the alien flagship, Thane smiled. The humans were not running. They were not even trying to fight. They were just floating there, waiting to die. Perhaps they had finally accepted their fate. "Target the largest human vessel," Thane commanded. "Destroy it. Let the others see what happens to those who resist." The plasma cannons charged. Energy gathered in the weapon systems. The targeting computers locked onto the Defiance. Fire. A beam of superheated plasma shot across space toward the human carrier. It was bright enough to see from Earth's surface. Millions of people watched, holding their breath, waiting for their flagship to explode. The Defiance moved. Not much. Just a few hundred meters to the left. The plasma beam passed through empty space and continued into the darkness. "They dodged it," Senna said in disbelief. "They actually dodged it." Thane stared at the view screen. No species had ever tried to dodge their weapons. There was no point. The plasma cannons always hit their targets, but the humans were not staying still. They were moving constantly, unpredictably, dancing through space like insects. All ships opened fire. Thane shouted. The alien fleet unleashed a storm of plasma. Beams of light filled the space between the two forces. It was the most powerful attack the Council had ever launched against a single planet, and it missed. Most of it, anyway. The human ships were too fast, too random. They did not fly in formations. They did not follow patterns. Each pilot moved independently, making decisions in split seconds that no computer could predict. A few human ships were hit. They exploded in balls of fire, but most survived. Admiral Una said calmly, "It is our turn." Across Earth's surface, 12,000 weapon satellites activated. Railguns, missile platforms, and laser arrays aimed at the alien fleet. And from the human ships, every weapon was armed and ready. Fire everything. The response was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Tungsten rods the size of cars were launched at incredible speeds. Missiles by the thousands screamed toward the alien ships. Nuclear warheads detonated in the middle of the enemy formation. It was not elegant. It was not advanced. It was pure, brutal, primitive destruction. The The first alien ship was hit by a railgun slug traveling at a fraction of the speed of light. The projectile punched through the shield like it was not there. It entered the front of the ship and exited the back, leaving a hole the size of a house. The ship broke apart, spilling debris into space. Then another ship exploded. And another. And another. Captain Nari Lim flew her fighter through the chaos. She was one of the best pilots in the fleet, trained since childhood in aerial combat. The alien ships around her were disintegrating under the human assault. "This is impossible," she heard over the radio. It was an alien voice, translated by the ship's computer. "Our shields are failing. Nothing is stopping their weapons." Nari fired her own missiles at a nearby cruiser. The warhead struck the hull and detonated. The explosion ripped the alien ship in half. She watched the pieces drift apart, flames quickly dying in the vacuum of space. "They do not even try to dodge," she reported to command. "They just sit there and take the hits." "They have never needed to dodge," Commander Wu Jin replied. "They do not know how." The battle continued for 6 hours. It was not really a battle. It was a massacre. The aliens could not adapt. They could not change their tactics. They had been fighting the same way for thousands of years. They did not know any other way. Human pilots flew circles around the massive Council warships. Human weapons tore through shields that had never been tested against kinetic force. Human soldiers boarded damaged alien vessels and captured them, adding their technology to Earth's growing collection. By the time the sun rose over Seoul, 2,000 alien ships were debris. The survivors had retreated to the edge of the solar system. The space around Earth was filled with wreckage and bodies. On the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral Yuna watched the enemy flee. Her officers were cheering. Some were crying with relief. They had done the impossible. They had defeated an enemy that had conquered hundreds of worlds. "Casualties?" Yuna asked quietly. Commander Wujin checked his console. 47 ships lost. Approximately 6,000 personnel. The orbital platforms suffered minimal damage. 6,000 lives. 6,000 families who would never see their loved ones again. Yuna closed her eyes for a moment. Victory always had a price, and the enemy. "We estimate over 2 million alien casualties. 43 ships captured intact. Their fleet has retreated beyond Jupiter's orbit." Yuna opened her eyes. "Send a message to the retreating ships. Tell them that this was their only warning. If they return to Earth, we will destroy them all." Captain Neri's voice came over the radio. She sounded exhausted but alive. "Admiral, what happens now?" "They will come back with more ships. This is not over." "Oh." "No," Yuna agreed. "It is not over. But the galaxy just learned something important. Humanity does not surrender. Humanity does not bow. And when someone threatens our home, we fight back with everything we have." She looked at the distant stars. Somewhere out there, the Galactic Council was learning that they had made a terrible mistake. They had awakened something they did not understand. Something that evolved through struggle. Something that grew stronger with every challenge. They had awakened humanity. And humanity was just getting started. 3 months had passed since the Battle of Earth. The galaxy was still in shock. Hi, Counselor Thane stood before the full Galactic Council. The chamber was massive, filled with representatives from hundreds of conquered species. For 10,000 years, these meetings had been celebrations of power. Today, it felt more like a funeral. "The humans have taken our outer colonies," one counselor reported. "They freed the slave populations and destroyed our mining operations. Our reinforcement fleet was ambushed near the Proxima system," another added. 500 ships, all destroyed. "The humans used some kind of weapon that moves faster than our sensors can track." Ain't said nothing. He had aged decades in the past months. The defeat at Earth had been just the beginning. Humanity had not waited for the Council to regroup. They had attacked first, pushing outward from their tiny planet like a fire spreading through dry grass. "How is this possible?" demanded Counselor Vex, a large creature covered in scales. "They are primitives. They have only had space travel for a few centuries. We have ruled this galaxy for millennia, and that is exactly why we are losing," Thane said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. We stopped growing. We stopped learning. We thought we were perfect. The humans never stopped. Every defeat makes them stronger. Every challenge makes them smarter. They adapt faster than we can respond. The chamber fell silent. A message arrived. The humans wanted to talk. They were sending a delegation to the council homeworld. Admiral Una Park herself was coming, along with an ambassador named Junho Yu. Some counselors wanted to attack the human ship when it arrived. Others wanted to flee. In the end, they did neither. They waited because they had no other choice. The human vessel was small. It landed in the great plaza outside the council chamber. The doors opened, and Admiral Una Park stepped out. She was a tiny figure compared to the massive alien buildings around her. She was wearing a simple uniform. No armor, no visible weapons. She walked like she owned the place. Behind her came Ambassador Junho, a tall man with kind eyes and a gentle smile. He looked around at the alien architecture with genuine curiosity. It's like a tourist visiting a new city. The counselors watched from their chambers as the humans entered. Guards surrounded them, but the humans showed no fear. They walked calmly through the halls that had seen the surrender of 400. Civilization's Thane met them at the entrance to the great chamber. He towered over the human admiral, but somehow she made him feel small. "Hi, Counselor," Una said politely. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with us." "I did not have much choice," Thane replied. "You have destroyed half my fleet and freed a quarter of our conquered territories. What more do you want?" "Peace," Una said simply. "We want peace." Thane stared at her. "You attacked us. You killed millions of our soldiers. You tore apart our empire. And now you want peace?" "You attacked us first," Una reminded him. "You came to our world and demanded our surrender. You threatened to enslave our people. We simply defended ourselves, and then you kept attacking. We freed slaves. We liberated oppressed peoples. We stopped your empire from hurting anyone else." Una shrugged. "Would you rather we had waited for you to rebuild and attack us again?" Thane had no answer. Ambassador Junho stepped forward. His voice was warm and friendly, the voice of someone who genuinely wanted to help. "Hi, Counselor. We do not want to destroy you. We do not want to rule the galaxy. We just want to live in peace with our neighbors." "Then what do you want?" Thane asked. Junho smiled. "We have prepared a list of terms. First, all conquered species will be offered independence. They can choose to remain with the Council or form their own governments. Second, the Council's military will be reduced to defense forces only. No more conquest. Third, you will open trade and diplomatic relations with Earth and all other free worlds." "You want us to give up everything we built?" Thane said bitterly. "We want you to build something better," Junho replied. "An empire based on fear will always fall eventually. But a community based on cooperation and mutual respect can last forever." Thane looked at the human delegation. These small, fragile creatures had done what no one else could. They had broken the Council's power. They could have demanded revenge. They could have enslaved the Council species the way the Council had enslaved others. Instead, they were offering peace. "Why?" Thane asked finally. "Why show us mercy? After everything we did to your people, to the other species we conquered, why not destroy us completely?" Admiral Una considered the question carefully. "Because destruction is easy, building is hard. We want to build something new. Something that includes everyone, even former enemies." She paused. "Also, we learned something from this war. We are good at fighting. Maybe too good. If we keep fighting, we will become like you, conquerors who only know how to destroy. We do not want that." The council chambers were silent. The other species watched, waiting to see what would happen next. Thane looked at his fellow counselors. He saw fear in their eyes. Fear of the humans. Fear of change. Fear of a galaxy where they were no longer the masters. But he also saw something else. In the eyes of the servant species who filled the lower seats, he saw hope. Hope that their chains might finally be broken. Hope for a future they had never dared to imagine. Thane made his decision. "We accept your terms," he said. "The Galactic Council will reform. The conquered species will be freed. We will learn to live in peace." Admiral Yuna nodded. Then the war is over. 20 years later, the galaxy was a different place. The old council had been replaced by a new federation of free worlds. Species that had been slaves for centuries were building their own civilizations. Trade and knowledge flowed between worlds that had never communicated before. Dr. Hannah had become the most famous scientist in the galaxy. Her research had sparked a technological revolution. General Taiho Shin commanded a peacekeeping force made up of dozens of species working together. Captain Nari Lim trained pilots from 100 different worlds, and in the archives of the new Galactic Federation, the record of humanity's first contact was preserved. At the bottom of the document, someone had added a simple warning for any future species considering aggression against Earth. It read, "Do not threaten them. They find it amusing. And when they stop laughing, they start fighting. And when they start fighting, they do not stop until they win." Admiral Yuna Park, now retired, sometimes visited the archives to read those words. She would smile at the memory of that first day. When alien ships filled the sky and demanded humanity's surrender, they had expected fear. They had expected submission. Instead, humanity had laughed, and then humanity had changed the galaxy forever.